Hey guys, it's Ruth. I'm here with your History Mystery Monday, and this one is a little bit of an update. So buckle up because this is a doozy. So a few weeks ago, I shared with you guys that in the original minutes for the History Center back in 1949 when we formed, it mentioned that the first official donation was a marker from Mr. and Mrs. Hoskins for a Harriet Bliss. And I didn't know what that meant, but apparently it's a gravestone. And I don't remember if I told you guys that, but it is a gravestone. And I couldn't find any records of the Bliss owning the property, the Bliss family. And so our volunteer, Marianne Carruthers, shout out Marianne, who's been working on this for weeks. Thank you for your time. She found that, hold on, I got a lot of papers here. Okay. So she had found that A.C. Gardner owned the property at one point, owned that like huge piece of land. And in his probate record, gave it to his son, A.B. Gardner. He gave the land and the building, the brick house, excuse me. But there was a 1 acre deeded to O.B. Bliss in the southeast corner, which was owned by a Mrs. Walls or Wales. We've seen both on here. And so I guess the Bliss family owned that small corner, and that is where we assume the headstone was found. So that is what we found. It's interesting that we don't know where it went. So Harriet Bliss drowned. I believe she was 9 years old. 4 years old. Bad math. It's Monday. And she, so she died, but they have a stone for her up at Grove Hill Cemetery, which is still there. She also has a stone at Evergreen, which isn't abnormal. There are a few duplicates from when they closed the Grove Hill Cemetery and created Evergreen. There is some overlap. I don't know where this third stone is that they found on the property. We haven't located it yet. If there's one at Grove Hill and there's one at Evergreen, I don't know where this other one is and why it was on their property. In 1949 is when the Hoskins found it and brought it to the Historical Society. And so what was really cool about this was on a completely different note, this woman came in. She is a descendant of the Harris family, and the Gardners and the Harrises were related by marriage, I believe, at some point. And so she had brought in this scrapbook for us to look at, and I love these moments where things just like come together that you didn't think would come together. And in this scrapbook, there is a letter addressed to Neil and Elizabeth, and those are the Hoskins. And it's dated June 22nd, 1950. So this is after they gave it to the Historical Society in 1949. And this letter was in pretty bad shape. It was taped together. It was about 4 or 5 pages. I couldn't get the last few pages to come apart because someone a long time ago had used Scotch tape to tape them together, which deteriorates. There was acid in that, and it's all yellowed and stuck to the paper, and they all stuck together. So you can't peel them apart unless you're a professional conservator, which I'm not. So I did what I could to get these first 2 pages successfully. But it seems to be a letter. Marianne's thinking it's a letter from us that we had from the Historical Society, that we got the stone and then we did research on the property for the Hoskins, and that is what this letter is. But since I can't get to the last page, I don't know who signed this letter. And this is something we still do today. We still do property searches for people and help people figure out the history of their properties and their homes. So, you know, let us know if you have any questions on yours. But this says down here, for the reason that the gravestone found in the tree lawn in the front of 210 South Franklin Street bears an inscription showing that it was placed over the grave of a little girl, Harriet Bliss, 9 years old, was the daughter of Obadiah Bliss. See, that's where I got the 9 from, but then I saw her birth and death dates, which are not 9 years apart. So I guess that's a mystery or mistake on its own, I guess. The inscription gives her death occurring in March 1842. The supposition is at the time of her death, her father owned the property described in the Benedict mortgage, and that she was first buried on the east side of the tract. The gravestone was no doubt from some nearby quarry, and the inscription was probably chiseled on it by her father or some other relative. There is a simple headstone in the old cemetery north of Grove Hill, marking Harriet Bliss's present resting place. And if she was buried on the Franklin Street property, she was later removed to the cemetery on Grove Hill. It is safe to say, therefore, that in the 1840s, the property was owned by Obadiah and James N. Bliss, and the unearthing of the gravestone of Harriet Bliss further confirms this statement. So that was just a crazy surprise. We couldn't believe it, that this random letter that we found in a scrapbook that someone randomly dropped off talks about our mystery from a few weeks ago and missing that stone. So again, we still don't have the stone, but we know a little bit more about Harriet Bliss and why that stone was there, and another cool connection to the History Center and our history, 75 years later, that we're talking about this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little mystery, this little update. If we ever find this stone, we'll let you know. But thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a good week. Bye.